Once again, welcome to our YouTube channel Learning for Knowledge. Today we will proceed further in the water treatment, and now we are focused on the different techniques used in the reverse osmosis or membrane processes to control the scale. There are basically different techniques which are used to control the scale formation in the membrane processes. We will describe basics of these techniques in this video. So let's move towards the video. Today the topic of our video is scale controlling techniques in reverse osmosis processes. So as we already described, and you know that reverse osmosis is an important technique which is used in the production of fresh water as well as industrial water, which are used in different industry processes. However, mineral scaling is an unavoidable issue which occurred in the reverse osmosis process, and the factors that are playing important role are affecting the membrane fouling or scaling are basically membrane properties, pore size, hydrophobicity, pore size distribution, etc., and also the type of membrane material. The second important is the solution properties, that is the water which need to be cleaned. So the solid particles, concentration, particle size, and nature of compounds which are present in the solution or in the water need to be considered and play important role in the fouling or scaling. Now, and third is very important thing is operating condition, that is pH of the water, temperature at which we are carrying out the filtration, flow rate, and the pressure applied across the membrane. So these are basically important aspects or factors which cause or which affect the process of fouling and scaling. So when we will develop any of the techniques to control the scale, then we have to consider these factors, and after considering these three important factors, we will develop the techniques to control the scales. So now we will describe these scale controlling techniques. The scale controlling techniques basically to mitigate scale formation in reverse osmosis systems. There are different types and the methods are used. So number one and very important is pre-treatment of feed water, so that the feed water which is coming, after analyzing its impurities, its characteristics, we will install a pre-treatment setup to control the scaling in the membrane. Second is optimization of operational processes, that is we optimize the flow rate, pH as well as the pressure, so we can minimize or avoid this scaling. And third one is development of novel membrane material, that is the membrane material is also play a role in the formation of scaling or fouling. So we will modify this membrane material to avoid the scale formation. And then addition of anti-scalant, nowadays very popular, and addition of anti-scalant, that is add some sort of chemicals or compounds which can minimize or which reduce the formation of scaling processes. So in this video we will describe all these four technique basics. So before that, we already described in our previous video that there are generally four types of fouling: biofouling, organic fouling, inorganic scaling or precipitation fouling, and colloidal and particulate fouling. So here we are focusing on inorganic fouling, basically inorganic scaling. So inorganic scaling generally refers to a mineral scaling, and this is a challenging problem due to number one, high amount of total dissolved solids of feed water and nearly complete salt rejection. So these two factors are basically challenging, because if we have a bad quality or low quality water which contain more dissolved solids, and the function of the membrane is nearly to reject all these solids. So these two reasons basically leads to the formation of mineral scaling or inorganic fouling, or simply we say scaling. What happened in this process? A very important, when concentration of sparingly soluble salts exceeds the solubility, and then due to these sparingly soluble salts which starts precipitating upon the reaching of their solubility product limit, scale formation starts and it can be easily occur. What happened due to this scaling? It caused membrane blocking and deterioration of membrane performance. So scale on a membrane provides nucleation sites, that is they provide some nucleus, you can say, and on those nucleus crystallization process starts. Well, this is the basic first step in the crystallization process. When nucleation sites created, that increase the rate of formation of crystallization, that is additional scale. So we will discuss now the methods for controlling of membrane scaling in brief. First of all, feed water treatment. One process to minimize the membrane scaling in reverse osmosis is the continuous pre-treatment of the feed water. So there are different aspects of pre-treatment. That is, we will basically in pre-treatment we are removing those compounds or salts or ions which create scaling, which cause scaling. So these are we already described. These are the calcium carbonate, calcium sulfate, you can say calcium salts or magnesium salts or strontium salt and silica. So if we remove these calcium magnesium salts or magnesium and calcium, they will, so we can control the scale formation on the membrane. So we will install softener in the pre-treatment setup before water enter in the reverse osmosis. So softener remove the calcium and magnesium ion, so tendency of scale formation salts now reduced. Or we can adjust pH adjustment by addition of acid, sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid to convert calcium carbonate into bicarbonate, which is soluble and easily remove, and its solubility is much more than the calcium carbonate. So basically by the adjustment of pH we are converting calcium carbonate into bicarbonates which is soluble. So acid addition. Now the primary purpose for reducing the feed pH is to reduce the potential of calcium carbonate scaling in the reverse osmosis concentrate, which can be measured by using another important index which is known as Langelier saturation index, or famously known as LSI. We basically in this LSI index we measure this index using different parameters which include pH, pH of saturation, calcium, water and solubility, and then it tells us whether this water form this scale or it will be corrosive or it will be balanced. So this is very important index in water chemistry and determining whether water will or will not form calcium carbonate scale or any other type of scale. Now there is an important question, because famous normally two type of acids are used in the for the adjustment of pH, which is sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid. Now which acid will be preferred? So I will describe here. Because the function of acid addition is to lower the pH, so to control the scale formation. Now sulfuric acid is normally preferred over hydrochloric acid due to following reasons. Number one, sulfuric acid is relatively lower in operating cost. That is, during the operation, if we calculate its cost of operating cost, then sulfuric acid will be relatively cheaper because it is available in the concentration of 98%, while hydrochloric acid is normally commercially available around 30 to 31%. Now sulfuric acid cause reduced foaming to the atmosphere which means less corrosion to adjacent metal parts. So different metal parts, piping and other parts which are included in the circuit of the addition of acid. Now if sulfuric acid is used, it will provide less corrosive as compared to HCl, hydrochloric acid. And sulfuric acid is rejected by the membrane because better than chloric acid, hydrochloric acid. Why? Because in sulfuric acid now we have a sulfate ion. Sulfate ion is divalent and membrane can normally remove higher charge ions easily as compared to monovalent ions like chloride. So sulfate is divalent and it can be easily removed. However, there is a one condition when hydrochloric acid is preferred. What is that? When calcium sulfate or barium sulfate, that is sulfate containing salts, are present, then we will use hydrochloric acid to control the pH, because if we will now add the sulfuric acid, it will increase the sulfate ion concentration and ultimately this will lead to the scale formation of some salt of sulfate like calcium sulfate, magnesium or barium sulfate. So if there is a higher quantity of sulfate in feed water, we will prefer hydrochloric acid. Otherwise, sulfuric acid is preferred. So in short, what are the advantages and disadvantages of feed water treatment, pre-treatment? Advantages: reduce the amounts of scale forming ions in feed water using softener or pH adjustment and reduce the scaling propensity. Now disadvantage is requirement of additional equipment and the corrosion problem may occur due to addition of acids. So there is a separate loop for softener or acid addition. This is a little bit small disadvantage of feed water pre-treatment, but we have to compare which is the advantages. That is, if we install this pre-treatment, then maybe we can save our membrane and process, and if this treatment is much expensive in specific case, then maybe we will not install this and we will go for another type of alternative to control scaling. The second is the optimization of operational processes. Scaling can be controlled or minimized by proper design and operating conditions like feed water characteristic, cross flow velocity and design feed spacer, and during the operation we can apply a suitable pressure so that it will not we will not apply so much pressure to get the more pure or permeate water, so that more scaling will occur. So we have to compromise, or we have to optimize basically the applied pressure and other hydrodynamic conditions and the setting of the membrane cleaning or target recovery. So cleaning, we will fix or we will determine the membrane cleaning frequency and then target the recovery, that how much water or permeate can be suitable that we get, and we will not compromise our process as well as not promote the scaling. So advantage is improve membrane surface environment and remove existing deposits. When we clean frequency, we establish a cleaning frequency, then the deposits which already fixed on the membrane, it will be removed. And membrane damage caused by high pressure and frequent cleaning. So there is disadvantage for this, that membrane damage can occur by a high pressure or frequent cleaning and increase energy consumption, reduce permeate production by if you reduce the applied pressure, so permeate production will also be reduced. The third one is the development of novel membrane material, because the membrane are also susceptible, there are some individual components promote this scaling, that is they will attach some salts or you can say biomaterials. That's why we have to change we will have to incorporate some special type of particles or compounds in the membrane, so that its strength will not be compromised, its filtration quality will not compromise, as well as it is scale retardant. It resists the scale or fouling formation. So scaling resistance membranes help prevent accumulation of contaminants on the surface of the reverse osmosis membrane. The design and preparation of novel anti-scaling membranes are now gaining popularity because the chemistry and morphology, that is their structure of the membrane surface, are often modified to enhance the fouling resistance or scaling resistance of the membrane. So we will basically modify the surface and it will resist the scaling and fouling. Now currently there are different methods are applied to modify the membrane surface. These are change the monomers of in situ polymerization of polyamide layer, PA polyamide layer, that during polymerization we will modify the PA so that it polyamide monomers so that its surface can be modified. The surface coating and cross linking, so we can coat the surface, or there are some cross linking with the main membrane substrate, and incorporation of filler surface modification, that is physical blending, keeping in view our target that if we want to reduce the scaling, then we will incorporate such sort of filler which do not like calcium carbonate, calcium sulfate, silica, so they will repel, they will not attach with them. Now in short, what are the advantages? Improve the anti-fouling scaling performance of the membrane, and disadvantage currently, maybe in future this will be resolved, relatively high cost and not commercializable yet. Still it is in R&D work and some of the companies are now applying, but that is very highly with a high cost. And now fourth one is the addition of anti-scalant. This is a popular technique which can be used, and the addition of anti-scalant is one of the most common method for inhibiting scaling in the reverse osmosis process. So in this technique, anti-scalant inhibits scale formation by chelation, dispersion, crystal distortion and threshold effect. That is, the anti-scalant molecules or compounds basically capture the calcium, magnesium or other scale formation ions, or they will disperse, that is they will not allow the formation of calcium carbonate scaling or deposits, or they will not allow the crystal formation. That is, when the nucleation occurs at the beginning, these compounds stop or distort the crystal structure, so it cannot grow smoothly. And then threshold effect, that is it will not allow, or it will not you cannot, so with the help of these compounds you can say that the solubility limits cannot be reached in this due to threshold effect. So advantages: achieve high water recovery because we don't have to compromise our pressure, membrane pressure, or simple other operation techniques, or we will not need to reduce the flow rate, and so high cost performance. So these are the advantages. However, disadvantages are increased biofouling because it will focus on the scaling, so maybe biofouling increase, and phosphorus emission because most of these are based on phosphorus based, phosphonate and phosphate based compound, so phosphorus emission increase in the discharge, and so therefore it is very difficult for concentrate disposal. So it becomes difficulty for environmental pollution that we will dispose of these high concentrated phosphorus compound in the discharge. So if we look in the scale inhibition mechanism, this is a summary. That is, if there is a chelation, then chelate with cationic ions to increase the solubility of sparingly soluble salts. So during the chelation, the anti-scalant capture or chelate, make a complex with the cations like calcium, magnesium, so that their solubility sparingly their solubility increases. Because now calcium ion is not available in the water, some of the calcium or magnesium ion will be captured by these antiscalants, so less free calcium ion is available, so their solubility increases. So typical antiscalants are these organic phosphorus like phosphonate type compound containing antiscalant and some polymeric antiscalants. Second, dispersion. So generally provide mineral crystal surface charge and keep them dispersed in solution by electrostatic repulsion. So they are charged, so they also you can say disperse due to electrostatic force repulsion similar charges, so the scale forming ions are dispersed and they cannot make a crystals. Normally polymeric antiscalants are the famous for this type. Now third mechanism of crystal lattice distortion, so interfere with the normal crystal growth to distort the crystallization process. So when crystallization process in progress on the membrane, these type of salts, these type of antiscalants fit in those sites of the crystal and the crystal structure will be distorted and crystal growth is not possible. So similar phosphorus containing an antiscalant are these type of compounds, antiscalant. And third one is threshold effect, disturb the clustering and ordering processes with substoichiometric amounts of inhibitor. So due to this scale inhibitor, they will disturb the stoichiometric ratio, and because these capture the some calcium or magnesium like scale forming ions, so their stoichiometric ratio is disturbed. Like if there are two calcium carbonate salts are present, when one calcium ion is captured by antiscalant, then there are two carbonate and one calcium, so they are now in substoichiometric ratio and now they cannot form crystal or they cannot settle and they disturb their ratio and they cannot form the scale forming substance. And similarly phosphorus containing antiscalant, polymeric antiscalant. So normally phosphorus containing antiscalants are basically phosphate or phosphonate based compounds with some polymeric compounds. Now companies are selling these compounds with their trade name. However, maybe in the future some of the videos we will try to explain or we will show some trivial compounds used in the formation of these antiscalants. So at the end we say that these are some basic aspects of how to control the scaling and different techniques. Maybe in the future we will explain in detail about the antiscalants and pre-treatment mechanisms involved in the to control the scale formation.